Hello, everyone. It's Ryan here of Ryan Ed Photography, welcoming you to another small business shout out episodes. And today, for our episode, we have Donielle Warren of Elegant Events. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Ryan. How are you today?
Great, great, great. So, just a little introduction. So, Donielle is the owner and lead event planner of Elegant Events, and she worked corporately as a project manager and supervisor for 10 years and has experience in business management, special event planning, and hospitality. Always having a logistical plan and an eye for design, she brings increased attention to detail, innovative creativity to her work with clients and vendors. It seems like yesterday that Donielle started her wedding planning internship. Her story began with the owner of Elegant Events inviting her to observe a wedding ceremony just to see if Donielle actually wanted a career in the industry. Oh, she arrived extra early on the wedding day, so eager to take it all in. And when the owner arrived, she found Donielle handing out wedding programs to guests that arrive ahead of schedule. She quickly apologized and explained to the owner that she saw a need and addressed it. Needless to say, she was hired on the spot. It was 15 years ago and was given the opportunity that would forever chart her course. So, through the time has passed and roles have changed, Donielle still remains true to her goal serving others. Today, Donielle humbly stands as the owner of the company that gave her a start in the wedding planning industry. There's so much more to accomplish, but she reminds everyone that we got anything is possible. All right. So yeah, that was an awesome backstory. So I mean, that actually leads me to my first question. So I guess, like, what was the inspiration behind the company? I know it's we alluded to that you met the previous owner, and can you give us your side of like how it all came together?
Absolutely. So prior to working for Elegant Events, I actually owned an event planning company. So the backstory there is like just the inspiration for wanting to be in event planning is absolutely my family. So my father had always been an entrepreneur, started his own business when I was a child. I always saw his work ethic and just really admired everything that he had done at that time. And so I went to school for small business management and entrepreneurship and had the opportunity to intern with Elegant Events. And then upon graduating from college, I did start my own event planning company while working corporately for a company as a project manager. And so I just continually just kept being pulled into the event industry just because that was just really my passion and what I really wanted to do. And for me, it's just completely aligned with project management. So being able to work with Sheila is, who was the previous owner of Elegant Events Planning. I was able just to kind of start with her. And as you mentioned in the story, interned with her. She hired me on the spot. And then, our relationship just continued to build from there. So it's always just been something I always wanted to do. I don't remember doing anything else besides, working and doing events with my family and things like that. So it's been in my blood since I was a little baby.
Wow, you really have it. You really have a knack for it. I mean, from that um, day of internship, and you just like you always sound so passionate about it. Every time I would like,
Thank
have a
you.
chat with you. Yeah.
It
So
is. It is a passion of mine. And I think most importantly, it's because for me, weddings are about family. And I know everyone has a different goal, a different objective. But what I'm most passionate about, number one, is just my family and, bringing together two families. And I understand that weddings in themselves can be a challenge, and helping couples and their families to navigate that process is truly my passion. I think the ultimate thing that gives me the inspiration to continue to strive and to really help them. And the project management pieces and logistics and design are all just the bonuses that I get to have in the process as we go along with the planning. So that's why I think I'm so passionate, because it's bringing families together, and that's what I love. I love family, so it
Yeah,
helps.
and that's usually the circle of life when your
Mm-hmm.
clients, work with you as a couple, and then after they get married, then their family gets, grows, and you're still part of that relationship. So it's a cool thing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, oh, before we continue on, guys, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share the video. Would really appreciate all you guys, everyone's support in growing this channel. So, moving on. So the name Elegant Event. So, is there a backstory to how that company name was you know
I do not know what
started?
the backstory is. It's so funny because my story is intern to owner. So prior to starting Elegant Events, as I previously mentioned, for a brief moment in time, I had my own company, which was Elegant Events, which is my name backwards, which was super corny, but very on trend. In like 2004, it was cool to kind of do things backwards. So when I purchased Elegant Events just a few years ago, we're now 5 years, I really did work up through the trenches. And I have that story of, working from the ground, being that intern, learning everything I needed to learn, and then becoming the now owner of the company that I started with, which I absolutely love, because now it just ensures that I'm never too big or too bold to like get down in the trenches and do what absolutely needs to be done. So I'm a very hands-on person, and I think that's like what our couples love about me. And Ryan, we work together on wedding day. I get right in there.
Absolutely.
There's nothing I won't do, for my event professionals or for my couples. So I don't really know the story behind Elegant Events, but knowing the name, but knowing Sheila, who was the previous owner of the planning division, she's just an elegant lady. So I can just assure you that that theme just carries through in everything that she touched. And I was just so privileged to learn under her and to still be able to have the opportunity to work with her. She's still on our design division of the business. So everything we do is just really, really elegant and with class and with a lot of precision. And we make sure we do things perfectly as possible.
Well, yeah, you carried on a really strong brand name, so that's really really a great thing when you could just continue on like a legacy of great clientele that knows your brand to be Elegant Events, and that always you know does a great job and really you know um like exceed expectations and
I
all.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank
So let's move on to the next question I have for you. So, what are your tips for couples on picking a wedding planner? I know it's a process that every bride, that goes through, like if they're selecting a planner. So, what would you give as a general, advice?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite questions. And I always just put it out there when I first speak with couples in our initial phone calls, things that they should ask a planner. And I know I'm being interviewed, but I'm like, hey, these are questions you should ask. Number one, is the event professional, especially in this case, the event planner you're looking to hire, are they certified? So we have an alignment and we're certified wedding planners through the Association of Bridal Consultants, a company that's been around for many, many decades, which helps us because not only are we trained and certified and have to continually on an annual basis stay up on our certification, our, the tips and trends. It keeps us very relevant and very trendy to know what's new and what's happening. But in addition to that, it's an extra layer of assurance that couples have in knowing that although, we are a small business, we have a big brand to, big brand and big company kind of approach to how we do business. So the buck doesn't stop here. If there's ever something that they're dissatisfied with within our company, which has never been the case, we have the backing of the association where they can go and, we could lose our accreditation, say, if we are not upholding that standard of excellence. Now, granted, it's never been the case, but I say to couples, if you're working with a planner and you want to be assured that they're going to do the best and not just kind of give the lip service, you want to work with someone who has the backing of a company that also protects your interest in your investment. I think that's very, very important. And I always include that to brides. So I would say that would be number one. Number two, aligning with someone who has integrity and is very upfront and transparent and honest. In our industry, there's so many deals and different ways that event planners like to approach their relationships with vendors. However, our approach and what we believe is acceptable may not be the same. So I would just always say, ask about, relationships with vendors. Are they accepting payments, and how are they selecting those event professionals for you? Because a lot of people may find your practices to be a little bit not aligned with what they believe is fair and true. So just integrity, making sure they're certified. And last but not least, doing that interview with them and ensuring that the personalities are a match, that what they're able to present to you align, and also that their team is suitable. So if you're going with a company and number one, they may not be full-time, or they only have one full-time planner and just an assistant. If you have a larger wedding, where sometimes we could do weddings of 50 people up to 500, we've done those big Indian weddings and things together. So in that case, you want to make sure that the company is large enough to also handle your needs if your wedding was to grow or to even downsize. So those are just some important tips I would say to our couples to make sure that they have that knowledge prior to picking and selecting their event planner.
Oh, yeah, those are great, awesome points. And definitely every bride should consider all of those. I mean, those should be on the top. So make sure, you connect with your planner and you're confident that they will do, the stuff that you're not supposed to like worry about anymore once you find the right planner, right?
True. So true.
Yeah. So right now, there's news about Pennsylvania. I guess the tri-state area is about to go green. So that means events might start ramping up. So do you see? I don't know how if you have started your 2020 season in like the first quarter, or you're just about to. So do you happen to have any trends that you see for 2020 weddings that you see? I
I
guess
do.
the popular would be like the micro ones. I don't know. I'll let you state what trends you see.
No, I do. And I'm even probably going to talk a little bit pre-COVID, which was very on trend for 2020, as well as what has even been on trend now that a lot of couples are having to rethink their process of planning the weddings. So number one, I'm seeing a lot of destination weddings, which we are seeing a lot. We're specializing in them. So destination could be everything from like the Caribbean. So, our team, we travel, we are doing weddings everywhere from Mexico and Jamaica and, anywhere in the Caribbean. We did a wedding in St. Lucia, So a lot of Caribbean weddings are very popular. Upcoming, we actually have a wedding in Arizona. So even in state, we call it the domestic destination weddings. We're taking a big old group from Philadelphia over, just to different parts. So those were a lot of the trends even pre-COVID. And then now with the transition afterwards, a lot of couples are looking at the micro weddings as well as like some elopements, and which is really fun because even with the elopements, people are looking to even get out of their backyards and do something a little bit more special, which again is where some of those destination experiences are coming into play, since they have a smaller group or just the two of them. So I would say that is totally already been on trend for 2020, with just the micro weddings kind of being included in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the main thing is for us businesses to be able to adapt to the changes,
Mm-hmm.
so that we could, still thrive in the market. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and so back to planning. So let's just um, give a little more information for our viewers. So
Yeah.
what so you give your top tips for how brides can have a smooth flowing wedding day? I mean, top three, or it doesn't have to be. I mean, you could just have their, like, one or two, up to you.
No, I love it. Pre-planning, right? It's all what happens before. And so like tip number one is ensuring that your planner, or your point of contact person, is repeatedly in contact with your event professionals, like at least up to 3 times prior to the wedding, a minimum. So like a lot of couples, of course, they are initially, for example, bringing on a photographer such as yourself, onboarding them. But I think, at least, again, there should be another contact with them a month prior to the wedding, minimum, to kind of go over some of the details, the timeline. And then again, just about that, within that month or a week prior to the wedding, just to nail down the details. So communication is key for me. I love to say you cannot over communicate. So number one tip is just to ensure everybody knows what's happening and that you're constantly communicating, because even the smallest detail can absolutely have an impact on the timeline or the flow of the day. And or if you neglect to tell the photographer that, hey, instead of taking pictures at City Hall, where now I'm just going to do it at the Lowe's Philadelphia, that detail kind of changes your setup, your perspective, and how you do your team. So just over communicating, I think, is always ideal, and not kind of keeping it in your head. But sometimes I try to pull couples out of their head and to pull on the details. So that's my number one tip, is to definitely communicate. Number two, just have fun. I think once you have a planner in place, so I know we're experiencing this with our couples, when there's a planner in place and you have a planner that you absolutely trust, and you're giving them everything that you could possibly give them to ensure that your day is smooth. It's like from that point, it's like in the morning, sit back, get your hair and makeup done. The guys can have a drink or a cigar and the girls can have their mimosas. It's just like relaxing and really enjoying that process. Because I think the way you start, and if you're anxious or too kind of riled up, you're probably not going to get the same experience. So I say, in order to have that smooth wedding day, you really want to relax and just trust that your wedding professionals that you've worked with up until this point will execute everything that you've done, of course, because you've over communicated. And then, I would say, like, probably those are my top two for, a smooth day, just trusting your professionals and communicating with them prior to the wedding. And you should have a great wedding day. Outside of that, things may happen, Ryan. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Things you don't plan for happen. So I would say my third thing would be, if something happens that you don't plan for, just be a little flexible and able to understand that, meet the goal. The goal is to get married, right? So if the champagne isn't poured on time, or the favors are not in the exact location where you wanted the venue to put them, things can change, and, things may happen, but just try to keep a light heart about it, and just keep your eyes on the goal, which is to get married and to celebrate with your family, which I think is, I try to remind my couples, even when some small things don't go as they had planned.
Yeah. Well, when things don't go as planned, it's your that's why you hired the best professionals, because they have the
Absolutely.
plan. They've already
Yep.
been through the same, through their career like experiences, and they already know how to deal with the situation, and they could
So
think
true.
more on their feet. uh
And
way
most of our
yeah.
couples, right, to your point, they would never even know that something happened.
Mhm.
Because, like you said, our years of experience and the amount of weddings that both you and I have done, it's like we're so quick. I've had, transportation issues where like the limos didn't arrive, or, something in it. Because we planned ahead so good beforehand, we were able to have that backup plan and call another company. Even we had DJs not arrive because they had emergencies. We were able to get a DJ in place or a
Mhm.
photographer in place. And like you mentioned, later on, we kind of fill the couple in once we have that solution, but they don't miss a beat because we're always ahead of it and making sure we're checking in with those event professionals throughout the morning and making, so we're ahead of it before we even get to the point where they're missed. So we're
Yeah.
fixing the problem before it even is a problem.
Yeah, like transportation issues. Like if
Yep,
limos have suddenly get a flat tire, like,
exactly.
your planner would know, just like, get an Uber right away, just so
Yep.
we're still arriving on schedule. So like that little things, sometimes you don't even, it's not like, something you would think of as a bride, or like, as a groom, but your planner is already anticipating those stuffs because they've, with the experience that they have. So hire make sure you hire the best professional. It's only going to work in your favor.
It's
So
only going to work in your favor. I agree.
yeah. And so another thing that I kind of, I guess, would probably help our viewers, sometimes they're confused with a wedding planner and a wedding coordinator. Are you able to just like give a quick like, distinguish the two?
Absolutely. That's an excellent question. We get it all the time. So we offer both services. In a nutshell, a wedding coordinator is what the industry sometimes likes to call that day of planner or day of coordinator. So just to be clear, a coordinator is an event profession, like a wedding planner, but on a professional level, who comes in and coordinates the wedding day. So in many cases, they work with the couple a few weeks or a few months prior to their wedding. Once everything for the wedding has been planned, meaning the couple has selected their venue, all of their event professionals, and now they just want to enjoy their day. So they hire a coordinator who is able to just kind of take that information, help them finalize a schedule, work on the details of the day, and then to be on site the day of the event to oversee and to ensure that everything is executed to perfection. So that's what a coordinator does. And a lot of people call that a day of coordinator. A wedding planner is a list of service. It could begin from the very moment the couple is engaged, and now they're enlisting the services of a planner to help them find a venue, a wonderful photographer such as yourself, or those event professionals. So they're helping them a little bit more throughout the process on the planning side, as opposed to just coordinating the day. So that's simply just the difference between the two. Some companies do coordination only, where they're mostly there just at the end of the process to help you execute it. And then you have planners who are there to work with you from the beginning or at some point prior to coordination and helping you with your, secure vendors and do all the wedding planning, which some couples don't have time to do. So that's why we're there to help them as well.
Yeah, especially like career driven like brides that like have like hectic schedules and stuff, right?
Absolutely. We get the career driven brides and grooms, as well as like a lot of them being in school. So, whether they're finishing up med school, going through residency, we get a lot of couples who, fall into those categories as well.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for clarifying that. That's a really
That's a
good
great question.
set of information for our brides and grooms out there that are watching this on the replay, or when we publish it out. So, as like the from the one of our previous projects together, Jen and Ed's wedding,
Yay.
that was like so awesome. Like everything, yeah, went by smooth. Some of the images will be yeah, showing up on the screen and coming in and out, so we could just share some of it. So that was such a fun experience. Like everything went without like a hitch, and it's just, even though we had to travel from Philadelphia to New Jersey, so I could still remember like everything about that day.
It was perfection. And I recall so vividly, like arriving to the hotel. The girls were doing hair and makeup, and everybody was kind of in place. And I remember calling you. I always call my event professionals in the morning. And you said, "Oh, we're here. We're with the groom." And I think you started the day with the guys. I was like, "I love it. He's early. You're on, you were before on time. You had already started with Ed. You had, set up with them and began to get some of those detailed shots. And as a planner, like that just makes our heart glow, knowing that, we're working with a professional who, like, when we're checking in, you're on top of things. And I just love the communication of your team. Everywhere we needed you to be, when I would turn around to suggest it, you were right there, so I really just could kind of sit back and let your team execute and do the things that the couple definitely wanted, like from the morning detail shots. And I know we went to the Basilica and they had beautiful pictures in the church all the way up into, I think was it Love Park? We went to Love Park for the photos as well. I think that was right across the street. Was that Love Park?
Yeah, well, it
Yeah,
was the loves that, like the statue that they built,
yeah,
like you can
that's what it was. Yes.
just,
And that, I just remember, that being so, but my highlight of like what your team was able to do was the same day feature. I think
oh
you did
yeah, yeah, yeah,
same day
yeah,
feature.
same
That
day
was
collection.
amazing. Yeah. So I hope everyone goes on to your channel or finds the same day feature, because that was a highlight of the reception, like, as everyone was coming in. And I think at some point we made sure that we worked on the schedule and we got that incorporated so that it showed toward the beginning of the dinner portion of reception. It was really nice. And the couple loved seeing kind of what the bride was doing before the wedding and what the groom was doing, because they did not see each other, if you
Uh-huh.
recall, and they didn't do a first look. So that was their first time seeing kind of what the emotions were like at each hotel, because they had two separate hotels. So they were really able to laugh at each other, to see like what they were
Yeah,
doing as they were
I
getting
had
ready.
people come up to me and were asking like, how, like, you just shot that today, and
Beautiful.
you were already all like prepared to present it like at that reception time, so that was cool.
That's
And my
because you were so
couples.
prepared. Yeah, you were so prepared. You had enough team members where, like during, I think it was during cocktail hour or some point in that cocktail hour day, like, you were able to do some tweaks and some edits. And, like there was still a team of people with the bride and groom capturing photos. You just made sure you had a sufficient amount of people on site so that you could still do your editing, and it came across so perfect for the bride, the groom, and their families. And that
Yeah,
was just a great wedding. Like you said, from Philly to Jersey, I love
yeah.
that wedding.
So just for the folks out there, so the same day slideshow is a special, um like um as a special item that we offer in our wedding collections. That's just surprises couples. So it's like, rare and unique to my studio. So yeah.
It's priceless. It was amazing. Just
Uh-huh.
their reaction to it was amazing.
Well, thank you. So could you tell our viewers out there if what you have, if there's anything um, coming up, or you wanna just uh, tell our viewers out there to, like, if you like have done some new projects, some things that you want to promote.
Absolutely. One of our newest projects is, in this day and time, being able to pivot and be sure that we're addressing not just what we've always done, which are like, the smaller to large weddings in a normal setting, but being able to attract those couples who still want to get married, although that vision may have changed a little bit with the pandemic. So now we're offering an all-inclusive full-service micro wedding collection, and which we're going to start this in July, so just next month, where we're working with local venues and event professionals. And the idea is that couples who are looking to have 50 guests or less will kind of fit into this micro wedding collection, in which they're looking to just do something with a smaller group of people, maybe up to about 5 hours for their wedding day. But we're able to keep everything right there for them. So they get the venue, the flowers, they'll have a photographer, the DJ, everything comes in one flat rate package where they're able to kind of plan their day and not be overwhelmed with everything else that's happening. So we've, just connected with some venues and some event professionals, and trying just to have that available to couples who still want to get married, and probably are just looking to do something on a little bit, not a smaller scale, because I think every wedding is just as important, but just looking to maybe not do one of those larger 200-person weddings at a venue and worrying about if it can still happen based on the current restrictions. So this has been great for a lot of our couples. So we start that in July.
That's awesome. That's great news. So yeah. Also, before we finish off this interview, so I have my secret bonus question, which is, what is your favorite beverage? It can be anything. Could be tea, coffee, whatever, alcoholic beverage, cocktail.
Oh, it's definitely a cocktail.
Let's hear it.
Yes, so I love to travel. So for me, like going to Jamaica, so travel and destination weddings are my absolute favorite. We mostly do a lot of weddings in Jamaica. So like the strawberry daiquiris, or what they call the Bob Marleys over in Jamaica, are really, really, really good. So, and that's just another frozen drink where you have, but it's 3 layers. You kind of have your Jamaican colors, the red, the yellow, and the green, and it's in this tall daiquiri glass. So those are one of my favorite, but even strawberry daiquiris are great. So I love a frozen blended drink, especially, I'm a summer baby, so I love anything that cools me off. So I would definitely say a frozen drink is probably.
That sounds like a really refreshing drink, like on a hot summer day. Or just
I love that bonus question. That's perfect.
That's awesome. So could you tell our viewers where to find you? Can you give us yours, like where they can find you on social media and all that?
Absolutely. So on social media, you can find us on Instagram. We're at Elegant Events Philly. We're also Elegant Events Philly on Facebook. So, yep, there we are. So thank you guys so much.
Instagram, yep.
That's our Instagram. And that's like where you'll find a lot of our recent weddings and things like that. So as you see, a lot of our couples are, on the spectrum. We just love all weddings, especially multicultural and blended culture weddings. So you'll see a lot of that on our page as well.
All right. So there you have it. So where you can find them on Instagram, Elegant Events Philly. So there's their Instagram and Facebook, Elegant Events Philly also, right?
Yes.
And then the website, elegant-events.net. So you could find them there. And thank you so much, Donielle, for your time. And it was a wonderful interview. And it was great catching up.
Same here, Ryan. I can't wait to have another wedding together. It's happening very soon. So once everything opens up, we're going to get right back to it.
Awesome. So guys, again, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, and share the video. So again, this is Ryan of Ryan Edit Photography on another episode of Small Business Shoutouts, where we have Donielle of Elegant Events Philly. So thank you so much. Stay safe. Yep, we'll see you on the next one, and peace out.